Welcome to the UN Brief. Today we interview Philipp Muller-Wirth. He is chief of the sports section at UNESCO in the sector of social and human sciences. We interviewed him to speak about the Fit for Life program that will be launched now and has started already, looking for partnerships with the private sector, and will present at the General Assembly in New York on the 21st of September. We spoke about the return on investment and the importance for mental and physical health of exercising for young children and participating in sports for children and adolescents. Thank you for watching the UN Brief. And don't forget to subscribe. We have realized even more so with the pandemic that it is really important to exercise for one's health, right? So it is a great initiative. So what I would like to find out more today is what prompted UNESCO to start a program focusing on well-being through sports. Were there similar programs before, or this is a new one? And can you give us some numbers on the incidence of lack of exercise and its impact on health of young people?
Sure, Maya. So we are the UN Sports Agency since the mid-70s. We have a direct sport mandate in physical education and sport. And that's why we are aware of the challenges that people face when it comes to the practice of sport and physical education in schools, on the one hand, but also aware of solutions and how sport can become a solution for a number of development goals related to health, to education, to inclusion, to empowerment. And so we have had a very concrete experience with our quality physical education work some years back, when we helped member states to design in a multi-stakeholder setting physical education programs that included all parts of society that very typically are excluded. In almost all countries of the world, physical education and sport are mainly about competition. And so what we do right now in all countries is filter the best competitors, and we leave aside 80% of those who are not competing, but practice sport for fun. And that is, of course, losing, especially children and young people, as lifelong participants in sport. And so we have supported Zambia, Mexico, South Africa, and Fiji in designing inclusive quality physical education programs. And that experience has built a very solid knowledge base about how to engage governments to promote an inclusive sport access for everyone in their countries, and especially for young people, because we do know, and here come the numbers, more than half of them worldwide don't meet physical activity standards from WHO. There is 80% of young people actually living sedentary lifestyles in times of the digital revolution. They spend their times in front of screens, and everyone who has children will know about this, how much we have to fight against them spending their lives in front of screens. And that has horrible impacts on their physical well-being. Obesity rates have been doubling or tripling, not just in the US, but also now in Europe and in emerging countries. And on their mental well-being. That becomes an increasing challenge to societies because we don't even know yet exactly what the impact of the life in front of screens is, of the use of social media, but we start understanding there is a huge impact. And the data we have is alarming. So we know mental health issues have doubled in the last 5 years, and COVID has actually amplified all the symptoms I just measured and confirmed that physical activity is a pandemic that already hit the humanity before COVID hit it. And COVID has been exacerbating everything that we knew about the problem before.
Many cases, are being reported of children's well-being, in particular mental health issues too, and it has to do with this lack of activity, certainly. So what organizations are you partnering up in order to deliver the programs? Because this is a combination of programs, training programs, and counseling to governments and other NGOs, or using NGOs to reach out to communities. So who is partnering up so far, and which governments are rolling out, and which private sector partners are participating, and in what way?
So Maya, we are in the design and construction phase of this global initiative. And the many things I say are work in progress. And so I have to be a little cautious in naming specific partners. We have a lot of expressions of interest, and we're still designing the framework in which these partners all can be engaged. For sure is that at the launch of Fit for Life at UNESCO's General Conference last November, we had formal expressions of support from the International Olympic Committee, from the International Paralympic Committee, from the Commonwealth Secretariat, all at highest levels, from France, from Russia, and from a number of private stakeholders. We have, of course, very close relations with the World Federation of the Sporting Goods Industry, and notably Nike, who support this design phase, not only the data component, maybe we come back to that in a second, very actively and financially. And we start having national Olympic committees. This is now where we come to a part, I don't want to name them right now because this is still in negotiations. And I will be proudly announcing all these names once we have confirmed all these deals. But we have national Olympic committees, we have cities, and we have a number of member states, be it the health ministries, the education ministries, the sport ministries of member states in all the regions, who said we are very interested in, number one, implementing Fit for Life at the national or local levels and test it, but also to support its international rollout. So we are in a very good growth dynamic, but again, forgive me, I prefer announcing things when they're really confirmed. No. And last not least, we have strong academic partnerships, because all this is about evidence-based policy change. And we do work with the Woodside Human Performance Alliance that, as you may know, regroups Stanford, Harvard, the Ivy League universities in the US. And we have a number of very prominent UNESCO chairs that support the knowledge component of Fit for Life.
And what is the cost of the program and its return on investment? How do you measure that return on investment?
Very good question. And maybe I can give you some numbers. So number one, we don't know much about the return on investment in sport, physical education, and physical activity. And Fit for Life is exactly about this question. As long as we don't articulate in dollar values, euro values, yen, and other currency values, what is the return on investment, investors will not come on board to invest in physical education and sport. We have very few examples of precise ROI measurements, social return on investment in particular. And the outstanding example that we promote is a work conducted by UEFA, the European Football Federation, that have, with some 12 economists and econometrics specialists, developed a very robust model on the social, economic, and health-related return of organized football in Europe alone. You may say that's very limited. It is, but it is very robust and very transferable to other sports and other regions. They estimate that every year we lose about 40 billion euros by not organizing football in a way that encourages participation. They say themselves, the way in which football right now is organized, amateur football in Europe, prevents participation. That's a very strong statement. So we have starting having quite granular data on the social return on investment in football again, in the economic and the health-related return, also with downside. So they calculate in their calculations the cost of injuries, for example. So this is extremely robust, and we are right now working, talking about partners again, with development banks to use this sort of data set for new financial tools for development banks to start considering grassroots sport as a sound area for their investments.
Excellent. Very good news. Indeed, you need to mobilize cities and development banks as well, national development and regional development banks absolutely should be investing in this area, because we know from different sectors, studies here and there, we already know that there is a positive return on investment in terms of the health of children and adolescents, right? Of society at large. So it is indeed a very good good news.
And I can maybe just, if you allow, we have long time argued with Nelson Mandela's famous quote about the good things sport can do, and we all love this quote, and no one has ever expressed the values of sport better than Nelson Mandela. However, we have not made a big difference. If we want other investors outside the sport ecosystem to start investing, we need hard data, right? And so Fit for Life in its first phase is about this very data component. We need to understand much better what outcomes sport can foster in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of social equality, in terms of employment, in terms of economic development. And we need to focus on these outcomes to bring in new investors, because one thing that happened during COVID is the sport ecosystem has no longer much resources, especially national sport authorities. So we can't ask sport to play a bigger role within governments without giving answers to the resource question. So very quickly, Fit for Life will focus on providing very solid data about the return on investment in different areas related to sport.
Thank you for listening to the UN Brief, and don't forget to subscribe